Takulandirani ku AMTV Malawi kuchimake kwa nkhani zenizeni. Ngati nkhani imeneyo kuno kulibe, dziwani kuti nkhani imeneyo ndi yabodza.
Dollars in commodity support from China. I say thank you. For 1,000 metric tons of rice from India. I say thank you. And even here in Malawi, to those of you who have given various donations in cash and in kind, either to the Department of Disaster Management Affairs, DODMA, or to the National Food Reserve Agency, NFRA, I say thank you. I wish I could tell you that all the support we have secured from around the world will be enough to enable us to feed everyone who will not have enough food between now and March. But sadly, that is not the case. Of the 347 billion kwacha target needed to secure enough food for the 5.7 million people in need of assistance, we are still short by 89 billion kwacha. With the assistance we did receive, we have been making food and cash distributions in the affected districts, delivering to each affected household either a 50-kilogram bag of maize or 70,000 kwacha to purchase food from the market. And so far, this cash or food operation by my government and the World Food Program is reaching 4.5 million people in 1.1 million households. And I thank God for His mercy to us. But that means we still have 1.2 million affected people who are still waiting for their turn to receive support. And so we will continue to lobby for additional support to ensure that the emergency operation reaches everyone who needs help and is sustained all the way to the end of March. In the past 2 months, I've been moving around some affected districts in the southern and central region, and will visit some areas of the northern region next week, because I want those who are facing hunger to hear directly from me that they should not lose hope, because help is on the way. During that time, I have also been engaged in internal meetings with officials from the ministries of finance, agriculture, local government, to ensure that there is better coordination between them, reaching those of you who are in need of emergency food relief. I have been doing this because many of you in the places that I have visited have told me that not enough affected people in your villages are being reached with the food support we are mobilizing. And I believe that the efforts we are making to improve the coordination will help close the gaps in the coming weeks. And I must thank you for your patience and understanding with some of the delays in this enormous nationwide operation. Additionally, because of the need to prioritize the food security of those Malawians who don't have enough to eat, but also due to physical discipline that we must exercise to manage our debt situation under the extended credit facility that we have with the International Monetary Fund, I have instructed the Minister of Finance to announce additional austerity measures when he appears before Parliament to present the mid-year budget review statement at the end of this week. So I ask for your support of those measures to cut spending. Meanwhile, in the 2 months that I have been fighting to secure food for Malawians who lost their crops, we also suffered a disruption in the supply of fuel to our country. As a nation, our monthly fuel demand is at an average of $50 million per month, which is used by our two main fuel importers, namely the National Oil Company of Malawi, NOCMA, and Petroleum Importers Limited, PIL. Unfortunately, through no fault of theirs, the rate at which we as a country generate foreign exchange has not kept pace with the growing demand for fuel, making these two importers unable to raise enough forex from the market to import the required volumes of fuel. For instance, in the month of August, NOCMA only raised $23 million of the required forex, while in September and October, that number fell below $20 million, increasing NOCMA's debt to suppliers to $72 million in October, and resulting in a 10-day suspension in NOCMA's access to fuel imports. It is this 10-day suspension that created the fuel queues over the past 6 weeks, forcing many of you to suffer long days and nights at fuel stations, as well as disruptions to your lives, work, and businesses. Knowing the frustration we were feeling and the urgency of the situation, at the very start of the crisis, I instructed the Treasury to contact our partners at Badea, who responded by providing a $50 million revolving credit facility. I also engaged the Reserve Bank to ramp up efforts to access more foreign exchange through commercial banks. And it is these interventions that have enabled NOCMA and PIL to bring the fuel that is now being made available in the filling stations. And tonight, I must thank you for your patience during the 6 weeks we have been having meetings in the night to resolve the fuel shortage. But I must add that the availability of fuel is only a short-term solution. The challenge that NOCMA and PIL face to access forex from the market in the open tender system we use as a country to import fuel has resulted in fuel supply disruptions at different times in the past 20 years. And it is time for us to take a different approach. For this reason, my administration has decided to begin the process of transitioning Malawi from the open tender system for procuring fuel to a government-to-government arrangement that will make our access to fuel more secure through better payment terms and cycles. In fact, as of 3 weeks ago, I constituted a coordinating committee to facilitate and execute all aspects of this G2G policy. The committee, which is chaired by the Minister of Energy, also includes the Minister of Finance, Minister of Trade and Industry, Minister of Justice, Minister of Foreign Affairs, as well as the Cabinet Secretary, the Governor of the Reserve Bank, the Attorney General, the Director General of the Procurement Authority, and the Chief Executive Officers of NOCMA and the Malawi Energy Regulatory Authority, MERA. This committee is being supported by a technical committee of technocrats from their respective ministries. And they all have my instructions to work with speed to secure the first G2G agreement for our country. As a first step in pursuing this, I have accepted an invitation from the President of the United Arab Emirates to visit him in Abu Dhabi next week at his own government's expense to discuss this and other matters for the long-term fuel security of our country. My officials will therefore give you more details on this as we make progress. During this same period, the Malawi Electoral Commission has been conducting voter registration exercises across the country, of which 2 phases have already been completed, with the final phase starting tomorrow in Lilongwe, Nzimba, Mangochi, Chakwera, Sanje, and Mwanza. I received reports that in some parts of the country, people who are facing food insecurity have been reluctant to register, and that some have been feeling reluctant to register because of politicians whose rhetoric is discouraging voters. My own position, because I swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, is that voting in our elections is your constitutional right. And you should vote. You should register to vote, because you should never surrender your constitutional rights for any reason. As for those who have grievances about registration process, we have the courts to resolve those disputes. But nobody's grievances should cause you not register. So please, go and register. My final word is to join the 3 former heads of state, Dr. Bakiri Muluzi, Dr. Joyce Banda, and Professor Arthur Peter Mutharika, in condemning some emerging incidents of political violence. We have already seen a political party member murdered in Blantyre and demonstrators being intimidated in Lilongwe. These things will take our country nowhere. And I'm calling on the Malawi Police Service to do its job of investigating every incident of political violence and bringing suspects to book. Malawians are peace-loving people. And those who use their freedom of political participation or right to demonstrate for violent ends must not be allowed to ruin our reputation as a beacon of democracy in Africa. God bless you for listening, and God bless Malawi.
Osaiwala kupanga subscribe ku channel ya AMTV Malawi.